I need you a story. From what I didn't get a chance to put bird in. Yeah, you did. I did? Like an 8 or 9 pound double action. I told you before. First one to like 6. Yeah, it smooths it out. Right where it is, but it gets rid of all. And then prep it again. It gets rid of a lot.
I'm fast.
I know.
Okay, so here's the deal. I recorded this video last night, but as it turns out, I was muted the entire time. I forgot to charge the microphone. So we're gonna re-record it right now. So please, pay no mind to my... I just woke up. I just woke up. I woke up like this. Well, technically not exactly like this. I do wear a bonnet to bed, but I have standards and I'm not gonna wear that out. Maybe I did one time, just to try it out. But yeah, so we're gonna re-record this video and I have my handy dandy coffee with me right here. Yes, that is a photo of me and my husband. It was a gift, okay? I'm not narcissistic, but today I wanted to talk to you guys about, well, I'm super excited to announce that I have qualified for my concealed carry permit. Yay! I know there's gonna be some naysayers in the chat like, ugh, it's our constitutional right. It's crazy. You have to take a test. That's unacceptable. Like, listen, guys, I get it. It's not ideal, but unfortunately, because I live in a very blue state, Rhode Island, I have to play the game. I have to do things within the confines of the system that we currently have in place. So as much as I would have liked to not go through all of these leaps and bounds, it is what it is. So yeah, I passed my concealed carry permit yesterday. So now the waiting game begins. I have to fill out paperwork with my town and wait to get that approved. I have to submit like 3 typed references from 3 different people before the paperwork actually gets approved by my town's police department. And I don't know how long that's going to take. So I will let you guys know when I have an update on that. But the reason why I wanted to make this video is because I used to be very anti-gun. And sometimes it amazes me where God takes me, because now I'm over here applying for my concealed carry permit. And it's such a 180 from how I used to see guns before. And so I wanted to talk to you guys about it because I'm sure there's a lot of people who might be in the same boat. Maybe you're reconsidering your positions on certain things, and maybe you just you want to start, but you don't know how. I know for me, I was very intimidated by the thought of shooting a gun. I didn't know anyone who owned a gun. I never went to a range before. I'm like, how do you start? So I'm here to tell you it's not that difficult, okay? You're gonna follow my 5 easy steps. I don't actually know if I have 5 steps. Actually, I do have 5 steps. I'm gonna help you with my 5 easy steps to help you get into firearms. But before I get into that, because I had a recent conversation with someone in my family, and I was telling them that I was in the process of practicing to take my CCW qualification. And they asked me, why would you want to do that? Why would you want to carry a gun? And it sounds like a silly question, but it's a legitimate question that I think a lot of people have when they don't think something that they see on the news could ever happen to them. I'm going to give you a perfect example of this. Recently, I'm talking like maybe a couple of weeks ago, I think, at this point, there was a mass stabbing that happened in I believe it was a Michigan Walmart. This guy just pulled out a knife and started going on a stabbing spree. You would have thought we're living in the UK, all right? So he starts going on a stabbing spree. And the only thing that stopped him was a man with a gun, okay? The guy didn't kill him, but he held him at gunpoint and he just held him there until police arrived. So I bring this up because I'm not looking for confrontation. I would love to never have to use my gun in a defensive situation. But to think that it could never happen to you and you're going to be in a situation where, oh, I can just pick up the phone and call the cops. By the time you call the cops, the crime is already done. It's over. People are dead. People are stabbed in this situation. You are your own first responder. That's the reality. And the thing that really woke me up from being this very anti-gun person was the realization that the media loves to lie. That's like they're saying, you can't work in journalism unless you're ready to lie to the public, okay? I know there are some good journalists out there, I get it, but I think the vast majority of the mainstream media, that's what they do, is lie. And I noticed that every time there was some type of a mass shooting incident, it was always, oh, school shooters. Always school shooters, or sometimes it was like someone got shot at a supermarket. A lot of the times it's Walmart. It's Walmart. You got to get your shit together, okay? But it's always school, grocery store, park, nightclub, but never gang violence. Or how many of these areas are already designated as gun-free zones? You know, and I think the media neglects to mention this part whenever they report on these mass shootings, because they don't want to admit that all of these measures that anti-gun advocates are taking in the name of safety are actually putting innocent people in danger. You know, I have never heard of a criminal looking at a gun-free zone sign and saying, you know what? I'm going to go commit my crime somewhere else. Never. They don't follow the law at all because they're a criminal by definition. They don't do that. So why would they follow the law when they see a gun-free zone sign? If anything, you're welcoming more criminals into the area because they know they're going to be unopposed. For every piece of data that you can pull up and say, okay, look how many mass shootings there are. Look at this. You have to look at that data and say, okay, how many of these were defensive situations? How many of these were people exercising their right to self-defense and they were able to deter criminals from committing more crimes? Because if you look hard enough, you're always going to find the data that you're looking for. You're always going to find the narrative that you want. From my perspective, only being within the 2A community for the last 2-3 years, I can tell you that a lot of the information that's out there about gun owners and about the Second Amendment, all of it is bull. a lot of it is just bull. There are some legitimate concerns. You know, I don't like to see innocent people die, and that's a legitimate concern. But the way that anti-gun advocates try to remedy that situation, it ends up creating more pain in the process. But that's an entirely different video. If you guys want me to maybe make a video unpacking some of the anti-gun rhetoric from the perspective of someone who used to be on that side, let me know in the comment section below. I would love to do a video on that. But let's get back to me qualifying for my CCW, okay? Number one. If you are interested in getting into guns, maybe you've never shot one, you don't know anyone who owns a gun, the first thing that I would recommend that you do is you check your state laws because you want to get an idea of what the entire process is. Like I said, I live in a blue state, Rhode Island, and we have an extensive process for you to buy your ammunition, buy your gun, you know, get on the range, get your CCW. There's a lot of steps that you have to go through, but I'm sure there are a lot of other states that's worse. I know my friend who lives in New Jersey, he says that in order to qualify for your concealed carry, you have to take some weird like FBI test. You got to stand on one leg, do the hokey pokey, you know, turn around 3 times, recite your ABCs backwards, like some nonsense like that, and they're always changing it. And then you have some states where they have constitutional carry. It is your right per the US Constitution. So, and that's it. And I love that for them, but that's not us. So check your state to see what the process is. And that's how you start, okay? Now, the next thing that I would say is to get plugged in, okay? Get plugged into a 2A community. And I say this because it can be very nerve-wracking to get started, and you're going to need people in your corner. And the great thing about the 2A community, they understand the importance of the Second Amendment. They understand that this is a right and it's the backbone to all other rights that we enjoy as American citizens. And so the belief here is that in order to defeat anti-gun advocates, you have to make more gun owners. So they want to see you succeed. They want to help you along in your journey. And so you got to get plugged in. First of all, check Facebook. Check Facebook for local 2A groups. Rhode Island has a bunch, okay? And I'm a part of all of them. So check some local 2A groups just to get tapped into a little community. The other thing I would say is check the USCCA and the NRA website. I'm sure there's some other websites out there, but they have events, and a lot of them are free events that instructors put on for the community to get their foot in the door. So one of the first classes that I went to was a basic safety pistol course. And that's where I met Dick Heller. That's where I learned about just like, you know, the basics about handling a gun. And a lot of the times these events also have free range times. So you'll be able to actually go out and practice using an actual gun. So that's the first step, is find out if there are any free events. You can also search locally for ranges in your area, and sometimes they have a calendar that you can look at. But that's the first step, is get plugged in, because you're gonna need to make some friends, and those friends are gonna be really helpful when you go to apply for your CCW. The next thing you should do is to take your blue card test. Now, if you've gotten plugged into a lot of these 2A communities, some of them might even offer you the opportunity to take this test. And this test, I don't think you have to pay for it. I don't remember paying for it, but it's a 50 question multiple choice test that you take in order for you to buy ammunition and to buy a handgun and a rifle. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Rhode Island, I believe in Rhode Island you can buy a shotgun without taking the blue card test, I think. But you should take it anyway. You're going to need to take the blue card at some point, okay? If you want to buy ammunition, you need the blue card. So take the blue card test. And honestly, at first I was like, I got to take a test. I hate tests. It's so easy. It's pretty much, you know, just making sure you're not a dumbass, okay? And if you're watching videos on my channel, I would like to think you're very smart. But just take the test. It's super easy to do, and you can retake it a bunch of times if you need to. My advice to you, if you take that test, the answer that seems the most extreme, select that. All right, so the next thing that I would recommend is now it's time to try some guns, okay? I highly recommend not going out and buying something that you think looks pretty, because you can end up spending all this money on something you don't even enjoy shooting. So I would say try some things out. And you can do this by, number one, if you join one of these free events, a lot of the times the instructors, if range time is included, they'll let you try their gun. Okay, and that's exactly what I did, is I went to one of these events and there was an instructor there. Her name is Lisa. What's up, Lisa? And she let me use one of her guns. And I really liked it. I said, you know what? I like how this feels. I feel confident with this. So I went out and bought it. And I'm going to show it to you right now. And I'm going to tell you why I liked this gun initially. But this is the Smith & Wesson Equalizer. It's unloaded. Okay, unloaded right there. Smith & Wesson Equalizer. And the reason that I really like this is, first of all, it's easy to rack. Okay, so it's easy to rack. And it has this. You see this? This is a safety grip. And one of the things that was very intimidating for me just getting into the whole gun stuff is I was freaked out about, what if this gun goes off? Like, what if it goes off on its own? You know, these crazy guns are out here just like, you know, I had a lot of things going on in my head. And so when she showed this to me, I said, oh, this is very interesting. And the idea is that this is a safety, okay? And then you also have a safety right here. So it has two safeties. This is not going to go off unless you press this and you have a firm grip on it, which in a way, it actually helps with your grip position, because if your grip is off, like if you're like, you know, doing one of these, it's not going to go off. Okay. So in a way, it trains you to grasp the firearm a lot better, just because of this thing. And I know some people don't like this, but for a beginner, this gave me some peace of mind. So I went out and got this thing. This is not what I used to qualify with, by the way. I'm going to show you what I used to qualify with in a second. But that's what I did, is I tested out her gun. I liked it. But the other thing that you can do is, like I said, go online, check locally to see what ranges are in your area. Some of them have rental menus that you can just browse their selection. What do they have to offer that you can rent? But that can sometimes get a little pricey because you have to not only pay for the range time, which depending on where you go could be like $30 for an hour, but then you also have to rent the gun, which can be anywhere from $10 to 15 bucks a pop. And so that can get a little pricey. So like I said, I think it's best if you make friends with people by going to these events, and they might let you shoot their gun, okay? Oh, and by the way, I just want to pause really quick just to mention this because I know I'm going to get some comments about it from people that don't know what they're talking about. You still have to pass a background check. You still have to fill out paperwork before you take home a gun, okay? In Rhode Island, if you have your concealed carry permit, you can walk out, I believe it's like the same day. But for those that don't have that, you have a 7-day waiting period, and you have to still go through this process of getting it. So don't think that, you know, little Timmy with no ID can just walk in, pay cash, and leave. That's not how it works. So stop spreading nonsense. Once you figure out what you want to buy, practice, practice, practice. I cannot emphasize this enough, okay? Practice. I try to go at least once a week with my husband, and we're members at an indoor range, and I would say practice. Maybe you can't afford going as frequently as we can. Again, make some friends, because a lot of these people who are part of ranges, sometimes they have guest passes, okay? See if they can bring you, have a little buddy system, but you need to practice. Practice often. And after you're done practicing, practice some more, okay? Shooting a gun, it's one of those skills that you can lose over time if you don't exercise it enough, okay? So you can't just buy a gun and then once a year pull it out of your dresser and be like, I'm a pro shooter. No, you're not. Okay, so go out and practice often. The great thing about joining a range is that the RSOs that are on staff, and if you don't know what RSO is, they're called range safety officers. Basically, they're there to make sure you don't do anything stupid like blow your foot off, but they're also there to help you succeed. Okay, so if you're having trouble with your grip, if you're having trouble aligning your sights, whatever it is, ask them. And a lot of them are super, super willing to help you. Practice often, and when you get to the point where you feel like you're ready to take your CCW, and trust me, sometimes I think we can be our worst critics and say, I'm not ready, I'm never ready. And that's exactly what happened to me. This past weekend, I wasn't planning on qualifying at all. I just wanted to go there and practice. This is what I do every weekend. And the RSO that happened to be on staff that day, he was looking at my targets and he's like, have you taken the test yet? And I was like, no, I haven't. I don't think I'm ready. And he's like, I think you're ready. So I took the test and it turns out I was ready. Actually, let me show you what the test looks like so you can get an idea. And again, this depends on what state you live in. You might not even have to take this test, and kudos to you, but I had to. But let me show you. Okay, so in order to qualify for your CCW, you have to shoot an Army L target, okay, which is this ginormous target right here. This is what it looks like. See this? And basically you have to shoot, you have 30 minutes to score a minimum of, I think it's 195 out of a possible score of 300. And you have a limited amount of ammunition as well. I can't remember how many rounds, but you have to do that within 30 minutes. And I scored a 257. Not to toot my own horn, but I think I did pretty good, okay? But here are my shots. And yeah, you have to shoot this at 75 feet, which is 25 yards. So it's pretty far, okay? It's not impossible, but it's far. You might be good shooting at like 18 feet, but once you start moving the target back, you might find that you have to adjust a little bit more and account for what do you even call it? Like, see, I'm still learning. I don't know all the lingo. Like when you shoot around and it starts to go down, like what do you call that? Let me know in the comments. Like, what's that called? What's that? I don't know what it is. But anyways, it's not impossible to do. Okay. But for me, because I have my eyes, their ass, then I am not gifted with good sight. So this is what I did. Okay. Get a red dot. Get a red dot. Okay. Not right away. I would say when you first start out with a gun, train with the iron sights. Iron sights is this. Okay. I'm just going to show you what. Yeah. Okay. So I removed this for something, but these are the iron sights right here and right here. And so basically I would say practice training, just lining up your sights as it is, because you might be in a situation where maybe you use your spouse's handgun and they don't have a red dot on it and you need to use it for self-defense. What are you going to do? It's good to train with your iron sights. But once you get to the stage where you think you've got a good handle on your grip, you know, you're isolating your trigger pull and everything is going good. And now you're like, okay, I'm ready to qualify. I would say get a red dot. It's going to make your life a lot easier. This is what I used to qualify, by the way. This is the CZ-P09C Nocturne. This is my husband's gun. And he doesn't like it that much, but I do. So I guess it's my gun now. So yeah, I put a red dot on it. This is the O-Sight SE. It's I guess you could say a budget red dot compared to like Holosun and a lot of other brands. I think I paid like $150 for it. It was on sale. And listen, it works for me. And this made it a lot easier. I don't shoot like this, by the way. This made it a lot easier for me to get on target. So if you have bad eyes like myself, that's what I would recommend. And the thing that I really like about this gun in particular is that it helps you master your grip in a different way compared to the Equalizer. But you see right here, it has this really nice grip texture. Right over here, it pretty much gives you a guide as to where to grip your hand. And what's interesting is that this gun doesn't have a safety on it. And you would think that because of the anxiety that I had when I first started shooting, that I would stay away from something like this. But I think this is common with people that once they actually start and they become familiarized with firearms and understand how it works and understand the basics of safety, they start to become more confident. And that's exactly where I am right now, where I'm not worried about this going off for a couple of reasons, but also this has, I think it's like a 12-pound trigger or something like that. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't remember it off the top of my head, but pretty much that means it requires more power to pull back this trigger than compared to another gun that maybe has a 5-pound trigger. So it requires more resistance, if you will. I know my lingo isn't up there yet. I'm still working on it. But it has a heavier trigger pull. And this thing is not going off on its own, pretty much, okay? But again, this is something that once you become more acquainted to what you're shooting and you understand how it works, you understand all the rules and the guidelines, it honestly, all of your anxiety, it just starts to melt away. When I first learned that I had to shoot this target from 75 feet, I was very confused because what are the chances that most defensive situations you're going to be shooting someone at 75 feet? I would guess that a lot of encounters are in close proximity, like maybe 10 feet away. So I don't know. I just find it a little bit odd, and it makes me think that these qualifications were made as a deterrent to keep less people from owning a gun and exercising their Second Amendment rights. At least that's what it looks like to me, you know, because you could argue that, hey, you know, people just want to make sure that you're competent and you know what you're doing when you're on the range. And listen, I get it. But there's this little thing called self-governance, you know, and I think we need to start there, is encourage people to take ownership of the consequences, the potential consequences that could come about of you shooting a gun and not being aware of where that round goes, you know, because that's the reality. Is even if you're using this in a defensive situation, you have to be aware of what's behind your target. And so there's a sense of self-ownership and self-governance. And I need to really train my ass off with this thing before I ever take this out in public. And so I'm not buying this whole, oh, we have to shoot at 75 feet just to make sure we're proficient. I think common sense would say, you should know better. You should know better. But that's my little rant, okay? In conclusion, I don't think most people are going to need to use that at 75 feet. I don't think that's a common thing. I think it's more so a deterrent because it seems very intimidating. I had a few comments when I announced that I passed my CCW. I had a few comments from people on Facebook and Instagram saying, oh, I heard that's a really difficult test to pass. And it's really not. It's really not. Once you master the grip and you understand how the recoil works and the trigger pull and all that stuff, it's so much more simpler than you perceive it to be. You just gotta start. So after you qualify, the next step is gonna be to get everything approved with your town. So I have a bunch of paperwork that I have to submit along with 3 references. And the references, by the way, have to be typed. Very bizarre. They don't want handwritten notes. They want it typed and notarized. Again, going through this big process that I feel is a deterrent for people because it's intimidating, it's exhausting. And then I have to wait God knows how long before this paperwork gets approved. So just be aware of that. But again, this is why joining these 2A communities are super important because a lot of these people a lot of these people know other people. Okay. They know other people in police departments that can put in a good word for you. So make some friends with people. Okay. Oh, and also, side note, I think it's important to have people in your corner because sometimes there are certain people within these police departments that are approving the CCW permits that will try to ask you for things that they legally should not be asking you for. So in one town, I was talking to one guy at one of the gun shops, and he was saying, yeah, my town is requiring me to release my medical records. So they want to check my mental health. And I'm like, what the hell is that? And that's a no-no, by the way. That's an absolute no-no on so many levels. But I want you guys to think of this if maybe you're someone that's saying, oh, you know what? I think it's a good thing for us to consider someone's mental health before they own a gun. Who gets to decide what is mental illness? Because I remember a few years ago, the media was implying that Trump supporters were mentally ill. Okay. So if mental illness is just subjective and changes at the whim of wherever trends and culture is at that given moment, I'm not into that. I am not willing to forfeit that information to anyone. No, ma'am. Okay. So, and I think being involved in these 2A communities, there are a lot of attorneys that are willing to take on cases like that because it's unconstitutional and it's just wrong for them to ask you that type of stuff. So after you go through that entire process, let's say you get approved for your CCW, the next step would be to apply everywhere else because unfortunately, not every state in the USA respects constitutional carry. So just because you qualify to carry in your state doesn't mean that you'll be able to carry in a different state. And you always have to check the gun laws of where you're traveling because you can cross state lines and instantly become a felon. It sucks, but that's how it is right now. So apply for other states and make sure that wherever you're traveling, if you're taking your gun, you read the rules before you go there. I really wanted to make this video just to be transparent and show you guys the process. Because like I said, I'm sure there are many people watching this that may feel intimidated and anxious about getting started. And I just want to encourage you guys just to start. There are a lot of people out there who are willing to help, myself included. In fact, the next step for me is I want to get trained so I can become an instructor and pass this knowledge on to other people. I want to make more gun owners. After that, I want to be a competitive shooter. Okay, that's on my to-do list, on my, what do they call those boards? My manifestation boards? I don't know what they call it. They have, I don't know, some people put their dreams on boards and that's on my board. That's on my to-do list, even though I don't believe in manifestation. That's not my thing, but that's in the pipeline, is become a certified instructor and then get into competitive shooting. Now, if you are, let's say you're a woman, okay? And I have to bring this up because women are the fastest growing demographic of gun owners in this country, if you didn't know that, which is so interesting when I first learned this, because the common rhetoric that anti-gunners will use is that they'll try to exploit people's emotions after there is some type of a tragedy and say, well, what about the mothers? What about the mothers who are losing their kids? There are millions of moms in this country who are training with guns to protect not only themselves, but their family, their kids. So I'm not buying that, okay? I'm not buying that at all. When the man leaves the house and he goes to work for how many hours a day? Who do you think is left to protect the home? The mom. Okay. So if you are a woman and you're interested in getting plugged in, I would recommend joining Women for Gun Rights. Join a local chapter in your area. Yours truly is the Rhode Island state director. So if you are in Rhode Island and you're a woman, reach out to me. Okay. And if you don't know what Women for Gun Rights is, it's a nationwide organization of women committed to safeguarding the Second Amendment. And it is a nonpartisan organization, which means doesn't matter if you're left, right, Republican, Democrat, you have the right to self-defense. You have the right to the Second Amendment, just like any other American in this country. And so, yeah, join one of the chapters. We would love to have you. But yeah, that's going to be it for this video. If you guys enjoyed it, do me a favor, hit the like and subscribe button. And more importantly, because YouTube really hates gun content, just leave a little comment down below. Type in pew, 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 just to help boost this video into the algorithm. I would greatly appreciate it. But yeah, if you have a suggestion for another topic, again, by all means, leave that in the comment section below as well. My name is Vanessa. You may know me as Gothix, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye. I'm going to finish my coffee now. Goodbye.